Welcome to the All Things Real Estate Podcast with our very own Josh Barker. With more than 20 years of experience and over 5,000 properties sold, Josh brings a unique perspective to the real estate market. Let's get started.
Josh,
Joey.
it's Josh, Joey. It's April 2025. I almost just said 2015, but 2025. Can you believe that?
Don't blink.
Dude, it goes by so, I just said dude. It goes by so fast. It's crazy.
It does.
It's been a very wet spring and winter, and the grass is high. It's gorgeous to drive around here.
Yep.
So I got to think the buyers are just coming in droves or no?
Oh yeah. They're just walking all the way up to state right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are we seeing people move here still? Is that a thing, or did that just die off when?
No. I think people are still moving here. It's not as robust as it was during the pandemic, obviously, when people had the ability to work from anywhere. Mm-hmm. We saw a huge influx of people, but no, we still have folks moving up. I mean, Reading still has its skews towards retirement. So for those who are looking at California to retire or stay in California and retire, the cost of living here is less than a lot of other places in the state. That's one big reason why they're here. Another one is the traffic. I mean, there's not a lot of traffic here. And as you get older, driving on the roads is a bit more nerve wracking, but here we get to enjoy an environment where you don't have as much of that. Of course, we have the great outdoors here. So we have people moving up here for that. I was just out on the mountain bike trail last weekend and met a guy from Campbell, San Jose. Just moved up here. Invited him or welcomed him to our community, and which I think is great just to see that, especially for those who are getting out there in the outdoors. It's pretty cool.
And even though like the rest of the state, I mean, it's like we always talk about this, about talking about the real estate market. It's like there's segments. And the rest of the state, some of the bigger cities have seen a little bit of a hit, but they're still so much more expensive than Reading. I mean, I work with a couple of realtors down south, and it's amazing what people get for 1.4. And I don't mean that in a good way.
No,
1.4 million, and it's just
no.
What?
Yeah.
So I mean, I got to think you sell your house down there and come up here, and you can have a mansion or buy a really beautiful home and still have a lot of money left over.
Yes. And that's still the case. It's just, it's a chicken and egg thing, right? We still need to build more homes up here. We need more inventory for people to choose from. We need to have access to pretty good paying jobs, for that working segment of the market. The retirement side of it, we still need more homes for that too. So it's slow moving, but we're still trending in the right direction. There are some challenges maybe 10, 15 years out that I'm a little bit concerned about because our population here in the county is getting older. Mm-hmm. And we really need to get that number down. So we need to be thinking about how we bring in commerce and the opportunity for the younger generation.
Do you know of any plans, or is this just like we still need to come up with a plan?
Well, I mean, it's all small streams run into larger rivers, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think that the city and the county are being somewhat proactive about trying to find, higher paying jobs and wages for people in our market center. It's just, there's not one answer to it. If it was that easy, we would have already had it. So, but bringing in more and more, and as the technology has kicked in, it has provided a lot more flexibility for people to work from different locations. We're not tied to the GM plant anymore. Yeah. Although it appears that that sounds like the government want us to go back that way. Well, but that's not really been the case. And so innovation and technology is opening up all kinds of opportunity.
Something that you said in there is we need new homes built. Jeb Allen has just started those two projects. We talked about that earlier. And I know you sat down with him and talked about him. He's got a smaller project, gated community. Yep. That's Riverstone. Yep. How's that going? How's that progressing?
It's good. Yeah. So we've got 3 now under contract in Riverstone. And then we have over in Shastina Ranch. I mean, we're trending close to 10 now.
Oh, wow.
And that's just in the last month.
But that's a much bigger project. And that's got some phases to it too.
Yeah, it's got 200 lots there. We got unit 6, 7, 8, 3. There's a lot there actually that we have to work with, and then even expansion after that. But we're off to a good start. In the last month, it's roughly been about 10 properties that we've helped Palomar with, and which is meeting all their expectations. So really, for us, it's just continuing to lean into that, making sure the customers know about it, and right now, Palomar's, doing a good job of providing more product.
And they're going to offer, if I remember correctly, the Shastina Ranch, they're going to have like different size units. They're going to offer different pricing. They don't just have like one. It's multi, right?
Oh yeah. So the smaller plan is about 1,800. There's some that are actually we're looking at right now to get it all the way down to 16, maybe even 15. That'll see if we can make that possible. The goal would be is to bring the further down we can bring those square footages in there. In certain sections, the more you can expand your market and offer a more affordable home to the public. And if you talk to consumers in the marketplace right now, a lot of them are asking us how low can we go in terms of access to the newer homes. And there's a balancing act there because the cost for development is so high. You still have to put curb, gutter, sidewalk, street lights, and of course all the improvements across the front of your property. So that's expensive. And so as you bring that lot size or that home size down, it's harder to be profitable. But credit to Jeb Allen and his wife, Sue. They're trying to find a way to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you hearing about anybody else that's building?
DR Horton's still here. Although it appears based on some of the decisions they've been making recently that they're trying to slow it down. I think Palomar's kind of stepping into that and kind of going to grow as they shrink. So, and I think that's a big direction that you're going to see the market going in right now.
Yeah, you usually report on how many new construction permits were pulled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're prepped to give that number, but
it's not a lot.
Yeah, it's not.
So yeah, year to date, it's really low, but we haven't kicked off yet. So I don't want to alarm anybody with the low number at the moment because I do think that that's going to change. And on the west side of town, there's a development over there, about 110, 120 units. Half of them are going to be low income. The other half, I think, can be fair market value.
Oh, really?
Yep. So that's going to be happening over the next year or two. K2's involved in that, and that'll be a good thing. I think they're just again what I said earlier about small streams running under larger rivers. There's not one solution to the housing issue. It's going to take a collection of a lot of different things working all together. You still have Oasis Road. There's a subdivision there that DR Horton had sold out of. And there's a builder in there that's looking at putting modular homes in there. So we'll wait to see how those go. But, this all kind of relates back to another thing. I don't mean to switch topics on you, but people have been asking about, the foreclosure market. Mm-hmm. People are concerned, is that something that's a problem? And I've put some time into that one. I don't know if you've heard anybody talking about that yourself. Or?
Well, it's kind of funny you brought that up because I was talking to Ryan Denham the other day. I was getting a new set of tires and I asked him how, because you see all these reports and I got to be honest with you, I don't even know how much the information I read is even real anymore. Almost everything's opinion and rumor. There's no, like, it doesn't feel like a news source. Yeah. But I asked him about, hey, I saw this thing where people being late with car payments is pretty high. And he said it's not on the 700 plus credit scores. He said you're not seeing that. It's the lower end, people that are right on the edge, and they're probably living off credit card debt. And I wonder if it's okay. So what we're really talking about is renters. Is that really so? You're not really going to see a big foreclosure push.
Yeah, it's been the case for us. I've been watching it because I'm obviously concerned about it all the time and wondering if that's something that really is an issue because I hear and read some of the same reports you're probably referring to. But it hasn't been the case. Last month I looked for our market update. It was 102 properties that were in some stage of foreclosure. I looked yesterday for the market update we just did for this month. And it was 70 properties total.
Oh, wow.
So down 30%. And you still got to remember that even with those 70, they're not all coming to foreclosure. The majority of those are either going to reinstate their loan or with the equity they already have, they're going to liquidate the property. So I think it's estimated that maybe even a third of those will ever even hit the market over the next year, which is like 21. 21 is not a lot.
No, it doesn't even.
It has an impact obviously on the families it's affecting, but not the broader market. So I just don't see it, and people, when you really think about it, we're only building, I think we're just shy of 4 million homes in the country being built this year. We should have been at 5. We got a million deficit already. And that's going to continue to be the fact pattern, and you think about the market, how bad it was in 2008, 2009. The fact pattern that was there is completely different than today. Back then it was interest only, negative amortization loans, a bunch of balloon payments coming due, where right now people are sitting in homes that are 30-year fixed mortgages with good interest rates on them. And, they would be subject to the rental market if they sold or walked away. So most of them are going to stay.
What is the rental market? Is it still staying at that 5 to 7%?
Yeah, right now it's trending about 7%. So that's actually some newsworthy stuff because we were as low as 2% in the city of Reading at the end of the year. But we're sitting right around 7%. The average 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage built in the mid 1990s is about $2,260 a month. So that's it's a higher rent, obviously, but the rental market still continues to perform well. Commercial market's still doing well. I was just talking to Chris Hadrick, great commercial broker here local. And he was talking about downtown Reading and some of the rents they're getting in there, they're over $3 a foot. And then when you add the triple net to it, they're almost $4 a foot.
Wow. So none of the factors, everyone was, the sky is falling. None of that really affected Reading.
We haven't seen a lot of it, but that's because, we didn't have this major exodus of people out of our community that was out of the bigger cities. If anything, we received some of the population from that area, from those areas. We still have the Palisades fire that, I just read a report a few days ago that they were bragging about issuing, I think, 2 or 3 building permits. And out of that entire fire, there's been 2 or 3 building permits issued. That's just terrible. That problem down there is going to take so long to resolve. But the state of California, fire insurance is probably the larger topic right now.
Okay, so that's a good segue into, because I just went over to Nevada for the weekend. We were driving back through, and we saw a lot of for sale signs in the Shingletown area.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy says, I bet they can't get insurance. I mean, can they? Is it the state fair plan or fair state or whatever, whatever that is?
Yeah. Well, just to clarify, you can get insurance. It's just that the cost of insurance
so prohibitive
is pretty prohibitive, and it's a challenge right now. Why you're seeing a lot of signs up in Shingletown, not only fire related, but because seasonally it's the time for Shingletown to go on the market.
It's gorgeous, by the way. It was gorgeous rolling through there.
Yeah, and they start hitting around mid-March once you're fairly confident snow's over, and they stay consistent all the way until about July, August, and then they start to slow down again. So there's a season to that up there, and I think that's why you're going to see a lot of signs up there now. But what you might not know that our listeners or viewers, however you get this podcast, are looking at it, but what you might want to do is go online and look at the new fire maps, because there is some new mapping that was done, and it put a lot of properties. It provided some more clarity to whether or not you were zone 1 through, I think, 5 or 6. And of course, the higher the number, the higher the cost, right? So, and if you want to, you can go on and start looking at it. I don't have any particular place to reference at the moment, but if you go and look, you can get a feel for what areas are more higher, and they're calling it fire hazard now.
Are we talking about inside the city, or do you just mean the outer area? Yeah.
Inside the city and outside the city. I mean, it's everywhere.
About 6 months ago, our insurance, we do all our insurance through one person, everything. And she said, hey, I can't remember, something, it started the conversation, and she said, we'll probably be able to keep you insurance, but we're probably not going to be able to renew your balloon payment or your balloon policy, right? Or no, man, I'm messing this all up.
Umbrella
thank you.
Yeah.
Balloons look like umbrellas. Umbrella policy. Yeah. And then we just got the thing, we paid it 2 days ago. Yeah. My wife's like, I thought she said that they weren't going to, so we thought maybe there was some easing, maybe some insurance companies were coming back in the States, something. Did anything happen, or did the fear just calm down a little bit?
No, there was no significant legislation or policy shift right now. But other than there's continued pressure from the state on insurance carriers that they all need to participate at a higher level of doing reinsurance. And so you're starting to see a little bit of that coming in. But as these insurance companies maybe get back into the insurance market, they're dabbling, and they're just putting their toes in the water in certain areas and certain segments. So I mean, a balloon policy, an umbrella policy is probably a little less. I got
you with that balloon thing.
You got Sorry. Me. But I'm sure an umbrella policy is probably a little less risky for an insurance company to issue than the actual primary fire insurance policy. So,
yeah, there's a lot of factors that just keep pushing the Reading market up. And the 2 big headwinds are interest rates are still, I don't even know where interest rates are right now. Are we in the 6s or are we in the 7s?
Right now, we're averaging around 6 3/4.
Okay. It's down from its height. It's trending down. And I'd like us to maybe talk about that in a few seconds.
Sure.
But so interest rates not coming down are one of the headwinds, and the other big headwind is insurance, because everything else is a tailwind.
Yep.
Everything else, we have very low inventory.
Yes.
Like you said, we're not pulling permits. People are sitting on some incredible interest rates from 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes.
So they're not bringing their product to market.
Right.
So, I mean, it's like if a couple of things happen, I'm still bullish on the renting market, I've been bullish for a number of years, and it was just because of inventory and how hard it is to replenish inventory.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, most of the transactions you're seeing right now, not all of them, of course, but a big group of them are triggering events. So, family formation, you're having kids and need more room. Divorce, unfortunately, is one of those. Death, job relocation. There's some financial. If you lose your job or are not capable of working, you have to change your lifestyle a little bit. So there's some triggering events that we're seeing that kind of tend to be, I think I would refer to as the core right now. Mm-hmm. What we're not seeing at the same level we used to see was those multiple leg transactions where that first home buyer decides to sell their home. And when they sell, the next home buyer gets to move into it. They go buy the next home. And then you might have 4 or 5 transactions following that first one. And those are good, healthy things to a market because that's how you get that force multiplier of more transactions happening in an annual year. And a year means the same thing, I guess, in a year, and which is good. But we're not seeing as much of that right now. I think that as interest rates come down, the amount of buyer participation is going to increase. More inventory will actually come to market as a result. And there'll be more people in the market purchasing because there's more that qualify. And then you start to see those volumes pick up.
So the things that we're looking at, I don't know where the inflation report is, but the inflation numbers is what it was keeping, from my understanding, them lowering the interest rate.
Yeah, we're a little cooler than expected.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cooler being good.
Good.
Inflation has come down a little bit.
Yes.
And so that's what we really...
prior to tariffs. So, what we don't know really, because it's just now happening, is just what are those really net effects of new policy related to tariffs. And it's changing all the time, which is part of the challenge that the economy is having at the moment, is because you have to price risk into these transactions, purchasing supplies and materials and even products that are already put together. And right now, I think it's a moving needle at the moment. So people are pricing the risk into it, which is creating some of the inflation. You got to wonder that, when we get into early summer and, things hopefully are settling down on the tariffs front and people have a pretty good feel for the lay of the land, we might really start to see that inflationary rate coming down.
And that's most likely when they'll react by lowering the interest rate.
That's what most of the experts would predict, is if that is how it transpires. But I mean, people don't know right now.
No, what is the magic number for you that you say if interest rates were to get to this range, that would really spark the buyers? Is it the 5s?
5%.
And historically, how many times have we been under 5%?
A long time we were about 4.5%. I would say we had about a 10-year run at that.
But that's an anomaly. I mean, right? Like if you expand
what's
out,
an anomaly now? I mean, it was just kind of a new economy.
Every day.
I mean, if you look historically, I would agree. But I would say that today, that we just live in a different world now. I think that lower interest rates are more prevalent, period. I don't think we're going to see these high rate environments. I mean, my parents have lectured me for years about, the interest rates of the 1970s, for example, right?
18%.
Yeah. And I'm like, I can appreciate that, but I can't imagine it because I don't know if we'll ever see that again. The interest rate, if you did, you'd absolutely destroy just about everything because so much is built on leverage now. And if you think about the cost of construction, the cost of development, all the regulation that goes into just building anything, that without low rates, there would be no way to accomplish it.
I had a friend, we were talking this weekend. He was thinking he owns his house outright, and a house came on the market and he was like, oh man, I'd like to live there. And I said, well, he's sitting on cash. I said, you should buy it. And he goes, well, I'm earning 4.8%. And I said, the price range that he was looking at was right around 400,000. And I was telling him, like, I think appreciation in the renting market, especially when you talk at $400,000, will exceed 4.8% per year. Plus, I mean, I thought of you when I said this, but I was like, what amount of money do you put on living in the neighborhood you want to live in?
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't like where he lives, but he would much rather live there. I'm like, there has to be, can you really put a dollar amount on that?
Well, it's hard. I break that conversation down with people all the time, where, when they ask me a question, I respond normally by saying, well, if I were to put your question on a scale, one side of the scale being logic and the other side being emotion, how would you like me to answer your question?
Yeah.
Because one doesn't make the other one right or wrong. It really comes down to, where you find what's more important at that moment. I share this story. I think I probably shared it even on a podcast years ago. I don't know, but my wife and I had a concern that the housing market was going to go down in 2005. And as a result, we decided to sell off a lot of our rental properties, including our own primary residence. And we ended up moving into a rental property and then waiting, tick, 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 tick for the market to go down, right? And all of a sudden it started happening. And of course, I'm really happy on the outside saying, I'm out of the market. This is great. And my wife is miserable because my wife and these kids now obviously are living in a rental property. My wife can't do what she wants to do because it's not her home to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm still enjoying being on the outside. So I'm on the scale, I'm on the logical side of things, looking at everything based on numbers. My wife is on the emotional side of the scale saying, I want to nest with my family. And of course, like every good married family does, if your wife wants a cat and you don't, you compromise and get a cat.
That's right.
And so my wife says, we really need to do something. And so I looked around at that moment and I went, well, the only deal I can see is to build, because I didn't think it would be any cheaper to build than it was that day.
Yeah.
But I certainly didn't want to buy a house that was going to go down in value. So we built a home, which bought me about another 8 months before, before we moved. But when I think about the choices you have to make, I would have stayed gladly in a rental for another couple of years, but emotionally it wouldn't have made any sense for my family.
Yeah.
So we did what we needed to do.
Yeah. So that's the thing with residential property. It is an emotional thing when you're talking about your home. It's not a financial thing. Like when if you're buying commercial or you're buying rentals, it's all just sitting down and doing financials and seeing how the numbers jive.
Yep.
And what do you put, how much dollar amount do you put on enjoying where you live? You know what I mean? Where you wake up every day.
Yeah, I agree. And I've grown to appreciate, I think, that more at this season of my life, where I realized that a lot of the decisions that we make, they can't just be black and white, because you could be a miserable person with all the right black and white choices.
Yeah.
And I think that, you're a much more productive person. You have a lot more contribution to give to other people when you make choices that are also much more emotionally fulfilling. And not to wimp out on the hard work. I'm not saying don't do that, but it's not only black and white.
No. And back to that story a little bit, it was emotional, but also the point was, to me, part of it was that at $400,000, they're not going to start building homes at $320,000.
That's right.
It's now there's houses maybe listed at 375 that should probably be at 350 or 345 or something like that. But that market, but that market it's not going to be replaced. We're not going to see it.
No, it's so hard. I mean, I every time we talk about building and construction, I always say I just so appreciate our home builders here in Shasta County and people that are willing to risk their talent, their time, their treasure, on trying to do something like that, creating product for the market. I can see the numbers, and it is awful to try to build something under 300,000 as a home.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't think you can.
And it's awful all the way up until almost 400,000 before you start to feel the breathing room of, okay, hold on a second. I won't lose my shirt for sure.
Yeah. I
might stand to break even or make a little something, and it's, I'm blown away all the time with what our builders are willing to do.
Yeah. So to me, it was when people say, hey, is now a good time to buy or sell? I've asked you that before. And you say, that's a situation by situation question answer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But when people are thinking about buying and they think, well, I'm just going to wait for the market. I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down. By the second even someone whispers, a rumor that interest rates are going to come down, that sparks buyers again.
Yes.
And so it's like you will just pay more for the house. So we always have that statement of you marry the house and you date the interest rate.
Sure.
So the idea is that if you're looking at a home, if you're looking under $500,000, I mean, I don't see that market coming down at all.
Yeah. I mean, it could.
I mean, don't overpay. Yeah. If you pay $500,000 for a $430,000 house, then that's a completely different story.
Yeah.
But if it's all things considered and the bank says, yes, it's, $435,000. If the bank's willing to lend you money on it, in a fairly, banks, like you said, it's not the old days where you got a heartbeat. Great. 0% for 3 years. No, they're pretty tight with their money right now.
They are.
And so if they come in and say, yeah, we value that home at that, I just don't see the market coming down. Now, you're talking about $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. That's a completely different story.
Sure. Well, and it comes down to the absorption rate by price point. And to your point, I mean, if you were look at the average home that's selling right now, if you're at $450,000, for example, or 400,000. It's that particular property. You have a lot of buyer participation in the market. And if you brought the interest rates down just a little bit, it's going to increase the amount of buyer participation.
Yeah.
It has a big impact on it. So I'm not as concerned about homes that are under that 500,000 either. I don't think that they're at very susceptible to markets, mainly because people need a place to live still.
Yeah.
And that tends to be the market where people need a place to live, right?
Yeah.
Wherein you get into those more discretionary purchases on the upper end of the market. Yeah, that it's the days on market are pretty long. Absorption rates are pretty low. Are pretty high relative to the demand. And it's more challenging to get a property sold.
Yeah. So I think the takeaway is that, the local market's pretty darn stable.
Yes.
We're not selling a lot of houses, but there's not a lot of inventory.
Right.
And everyone's kind of holding their breath to see if interest rates come down. And maybe insurance, maybe something's done with insurance. We can get some more insurance companies in California because breeds competition and they'll work. Every time an insurance company leaves the state, it hurts the insurance. And like you said many times, 4, 5, 6 years ago, you didn't even think insurance. You just say it was, oh, by the way, get a couple quotes. Now it's a factor when people are buying. So, I mean, the market seems pretty stable. And is there anything you want to leave us with for April? Is there anything we should be looking out for?
Well, I would just encourage everybody. I mean, the sun is coming out now and people are getting out there and getting around. So, be optimistic about the fact that there's new construction happening. The interest rates are likely to be going down in the future. We do expect to see our inventories beginning to grow. So better days ahead.
Right on. Well, thank you for your time, Josh.
Yeah.
I'll see you in May.
Sounds good. Thank you.
If you're enjoying the All Things Real Estate podcast, please feel free to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.